Well, hello, welcome back to IrishRacing.com's Formscan show, where we're going to be scanning the form and hopefully finding you some good bets for the weekend. The weekend after the Cheltenham Festival, of course, the attention has all been about Presby Park, but now we're moving on to one of the highlights of the weekend, the Midlands Grand National. Tricky one to get into betting-wise, but we've got some experts on hand to hopefully pick you through the card, as well as finding some winners. So Ed Quigley, as ever, has been joining me all week. And Stephen, it's good to have you back. How has Cheltenham been for you so far?
Yeah, greyhound terms, Joe. Quick away, soon clear, faded three quarters. Started well with Marine National. Good first day. Okay on the second day, but yesterday was a complete write-off. Backed a few horses that ran really badly. Blue Lord, bitterly disappointing. Got Shishkin beat and well lost on the race. So that was disappointing. And one or two others bombed out altogether. Rapper in the last ran no kind of race. And I still haven't quite got over Time White falling when I thought he'd win on the second. I know Ed was on that one as well. So yeah, usual Cheltenham, highs and lows. Hopefully we're recording this before the Gold Cup day, aren't we? Hopefully we'll have a good day on Friday and get back in front.
And Ed, I don't want to bring up too many of your anti-post selections. It might be too depressing for this show. But just give us a kind of quick update on how the atmosphere has been at Cheltenham. And obviously, yeah, looking forward to next year already, not long now.
Well, it's a little bit unfair, Joe. You wear it well, winning it 20-1 for Jamie Snowden. That's sorted out the anti-post book. But no, yeah, there's been some near misses, haven't there, with Jerry Colometal. But in terms of the actual atmosphere, look, the Tuesday was electric. That really was something else. It was one of the best days I've ever had on a race course. Constitution Hill winning. People were just cheering that horse in. A lot of people not having a bet on him. Just we were witnessing something very special. And then, of course, when Honeysuckle won the race, that was just next level. There were people who clearly, again, no financial interest in Honeysuckle, and there were grown men and women in tears going absolutely bonkers as Rachel Blackmore hit the front and, looked beaten, I thought, at one point, and then came back, and what a way to go out. So the Tuesday atmosphere was electric, and then, to be honest with you, he's done nothing but chuck it down with rain since now. Let's talk about the attendances are down, the worst attended Wednesday this century, etc. And see, officials are blaming it on train strikes, all sorts of strikes, and so other people are saying ticket prices. I don't have a clue. All I know is it was absolutely lobbing it down the rain. So most people I knew were just squaddled up inside in a bar somewhere, seeking refuge or looking with the hand dryers in the gents. That's become the new tactic. If you've got shares in hand dryers at racecourses, especially around the March time at Cheltenham, everybody just their non-waterproof coats getting the treatment in the gents. But look, it was a great week. But a Tuesday will live long in the memory.
And I think something else I wanted to just chat with you as well briefly before we get into this weekend's action. They were whipping up a storm, so to speak, about the whip rules, but it doesn't seem like that's been too big a factor. It doesn't seem to be talked so much. The racing has been doing the most of the talking, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the racing on the first day I think it's the best day's racing I've ever seen. It was the first time since sort of Desert Orchid beat Panto Prince, to be honest, that you genuinely felt quite emotionally attached to it. It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I was on Love Envoy each way and sort of pressed up at 22. But if you're going to but you're half cheering for Honeysuckle after the last, to be honest with you. So sometimes emotional things are more important than financial things, even when you watch racing 7 days a week for about the last 25 years. It was absolutely fantastic. That being said, there have been, I think with regard to the whip, Joe, you'll find next week's the time that all the stories hit the fan, because I think they review all the rides the following weekend. That's right, isn't it? I think they have a meeting where they're counting and looking for anything above shoulder height. And I have a feeling the real whacker might be one of those horses that might be Sam Twiston Davis could well be under pressure for that. So we'll see. Let's hope not. I mean, I'd sooner never talk about the whip ever again. We were talking off air, Joe, weren't we? It's absolutely ridiculous. We know it doesn't hurt at all. It doesn't leave a mark. It's like a feather. Once you've established that, you never need to talk about it ever again. The whole thing's a complete nonsense. Either we're going to have horse racing or we're not. You'll never convince the people who think it's cruel one way or the other. They think it's cruel, whether you hit a horse 3 times, 10 times or 100 times. Once it doesn't hurt, doesn't leave a mark, it's just making a noise and encouraging them in a certain direction. I think that's the end of the debate, personally, but I know it agitates a lot of people, but hopefully it hasn't spoiled the festival. There's still been brilliant racing, but we might find next week we'll be making the headlines for all the wrong reasons again, I suspect.
Well, hopefully we can find some good news and some good bets for this weekend. So we're going to start off by looking at the Midlands Grand National at Uttoxeter. So Stephen, just take us through your thoughts on this race. 17 declared. I know we've got, on the Irish Racing website, we've got Mr. Incredible won't be running, but just take us through your thoughts and what kind of race this shapes up to be.
Yeah, so we have got 7. Yeah, Mr. Incredible definitely doesn't run. So just be careful if you're placing a bet early on that they might still have him in the list, but he's definitely out on the BHA site. So 17 runners. So you're getting 4 places with normal terms. The firms will offer 5 or 6 places to attract your money. I don't fancy the top one here. I will do it. He came back from over a year off to win gamely from Mr. Incredible. First time out. It was a really good run, but he's a prime bounce candidate here, and he's got plenty of weight. I think he might go backwards for that hard race first time. The one I do like is the Galloping Bear, who's trained by a small trainer, Ben Clark, who's only got a handful of horses. He does really well with them. And the Galloping Bear's been a terrific advert for him. He's a veteran now. He's actually 10, and he's run 6 times over fences and won 4 of them. And he's improved run to run, really, as his stamina's been drawn out. Last time out, he ran an absolute screamer against Kitty's Light in the Ida at Newcastle, pressing really hard up the straight. The winner was a handicap plot for Christian Williams, overcame jumping errors to win, and the Galloping Bear ran really well. That was his first go beyond 4 miles, so at least he's proven his stamina. He's been given a bit of time to recover from that. Everything in his favour. Soft ground's fine. He should go really well. I mean, it's a very hard race. Looking at the betting this morning with Mr. Incredible in it, I think it's around 5 or 6 to 1 the field. I think it's at least 7 or 8 to 1 the field. This is a race, having watched it every year for God knows how long, you're not racing to take a very short price anything. It's a very competitive race. It tends to be last man standing. I know it's one of your favourite meetings, Joe, isn't it, as a fellow Brummie, that Uttoxeter get absolutely rammed. This is their biggest day of the year. I think there's about 30,000 people there who are all enjoying the local ales and all the rest of it. And it's bedlam right now. I know a few bookmakers who love this date. They think this is better than Cheltenham for them because they're all there punting, cracking away. The racing is really competitive, huge field handicaps. And I think sometimes it can be something of a bookmaker's benefit. But the Galloping Bear for me, hopefully he'll get 7 to 1, maybe a bit bigger. I think he's bound to give his run each way with extra places. Should go really well.
Yeah, it is a great day out at Uttoxeter. I have fond memories of going there myself. But Ed, you don't have a particularly strong view on the race, but just following on what Stephen said, anything to add?
Yeah, well, look, this is going to take a lot of guessing, isn't it? Already soft, 4 miles to more rain on the way. A tentative selection, I wouldn't rule out Trucker's Lodge for Paul Nicholls, Bryony Frost up. Look, 11 years young now, but a horse with confirmed stamina, won this race 3 years ago, won it off a £6 higher mark. Was 6th last year off a stone higher. It's plummeted down the weights for this. Looks very well handicapped, loves the mud, has done it here before, and is around 20 to 1. It may just be at the age of 11, perhaps Father Time's catching up with him. But this has clearly been the target all season because it's the race he runs it every year, and he's got his ground. He's £6 lower than last year, £6 lower than when he won it, and I think he's not a forlorn hope from getting in the top 5 at a big price.
Yeah, not a bad shout at all. Let's move on to your long shot. Now, I know there's no conferring pre-show, but you guys have gone for the same selection. So, Ed, while we're stuck with you, take us away, take us through your thoughts on your long shot of the weekend.
Yeah, a bit like the old countdown shows on Channel 4. We had to show your workings. Yeah, myself and Stephen, we both got wild about Oscar. Unbelievable, really. I thought I've got a dark horse there. But indeed, the 225. Wild about Oscar. Harry Skelton for Dan. Now, look, this horse's recent form doesn't exactly set the pulse racing, does it? Apart from the run at Sandown earlier in the season when just touched off ahead. But essentially, this horse loves soft ground and loves it here. Unblemished record at the track, 2 from 2 at the venue. And funny enough, the last time this horse was in the winner's enclosure was on this card 2 years ago when winning the 2.5 mile handicap. That was off 146. Again, we were speaking about horses who dropped down the weights, off 136 here today. So £10 lower than when last successful. Loves testing ground and unbeaten at the track. Well, I'd say that's a lot of boxes ticked for a 9-10 to 1 shot. Dan Skelter team in great form. A lot of their horses been running really well. Obviously, scooped a big prize in the Coral Cup earlier in the week. And at the time of recording, obviously, we don't know how their horses were getting on the Friday, but they got major claims with the likes of Pembroke and Protectorat. But I think Wild About Oscar in form yard, loves the ground, loves the track, well handicapped, a lot to like.
And Stephen, can you take us through maybe some of the dangers to Wild About Oscar here?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ed. Summed it up perfectly. Keelan Woods has been on the last couple of times. Last time, 3 runs back. Sorry, at Sandown, ran absolute blinder behind Dolphin Square. David Maxwell was on, and then back at Sandown last time behind Green Book with Keelan Woods up, parked miles out the back, and Green Book has come out and run an absolute screamer in the frame at Cheltenham this week. So the form's been given a boost. Ed said Uttoxeter suits. 2 miles 7, heavy ground, soft ground, absolutely ideal. Sort of horse I could end up being 4-1 favourite. I wouldn't be at all surprised. I think he's bound to run well. In his early days, they thought he was going to be a graded horse. He won at Aintree by about 20 lengths from a horse called Doc Pick Me, who's also running on the card as well today. But yeah, he's had injury problems and issues. And actually, his improvement last time, they put the tongue tie on for the first time. They got the tongue tie on again. I think that helped. I think he has a horse who's had a lot of trouble with his wind, but he's well handicapped. He'll love the ground. I thought there's possible lots of dangers. Trelawn would be one of the more interesting ones. 2 from 3 over hurdles. Last time out, Foss Lass on soft ground, won a small field handicap quite readily, but there was only 4 runners there. And I think, to be truthful, that was back in November. And since that time, Kim Bailey is really struggling. We've talked about dead yards, haven't we, over the last couple of months on Formscan, and Kim Bailey is really struggling. He's a yard they usually don't go a day or two without having a well-fancied winner. And last season, they're in fantastic form with David Bass riding winner after winner for them. But this season, the last few months, it's been really desperate. Since that big freeze after Christmas, they've just not come back. I think I haven't got the figures in front of me, but I think it's been well over a month since he had a winner. And obviously
66 days.
They've not
66 days.
Well, that in the middle of the winter, okay, in August, September, nobody taking, but this is peak time now, isn't it? The ground's soft. There's no excuse on that score. That is a real concern. And Trelawn's an interesting runner, but I would be worried he hadn't had a run for 4 months and the yard's not had a winner for 2.
Yeah, so I mean, as I'm highlighting here on the Irish Racing website, you can quickly see that information there. So Kim Bailey really struggling of late. So not ideal, obviously. But let's move on then to Ed's value angle. Take us through your selection of the weekend.
Yeah, I really have lost the plot here, Joe. Mr. Fisher. I think I tipped horse about 4 years ago on this show. I've totally gone off him in recent times for good reason. However, he's at Kempton. He's back at Kempton. Now, this is quite significant, I think, because the horse does have a very good record at this track. He's 3 wins from 5 starts at Sunbury venue. The 2 times he's disappointed were once in a King George on soft ground first time out. And in hindsight, that was an impossible task. And the other occasion he disappointed was last time out when he was dropped back to the minimum trip to 2 miles in the Desert Orchid behind the likes of Edith de Gite, Nube Negra, etc. And Edwardstone. Clearly, again, when you look back at that and you think he was facing an impossible task there. Now, in the aftermath, they say his wind's gone. He's undergone a wind operation. He's over a much more suitable trip here today. He's 1 from 1 over the course of distance. He won on his only time. I think it was the Silvinaco Conti chase he bolted up in last season over the C&D. So say, recent form figures, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, but he absolutely loves this track. He's had the wind up, but crucially, the old assessor has really released the handbrake here. I mean, this horse was rated 162 at peak. He's now dropped down to 146. He's plummeted 16 pounds down the weights. He looks too well handicapped to ignore it around 8-1 in my view. The one concern would be, Stephen touched upon it off air, if we do get some proper rain at the Sunbury venue, that probably go against him. But Kempton soft, I'd say he's nowhere near a Cheltenham soft, if you see what I'm saying. And Mr. Fisher, very interesting horse here. On the basis of his course form, he's dropped down the weights. And Nico's on for Nicky Henderson. I thought he's a value each way play. That probably is his favourite track in training.
Yeah, and any negatives about maybe the favourite here or anything else that kind of puts you off anything else in the race?
Oh no, it's wide open. It's totally wide open. I mean, the Rouge Vif is the other very interesting horse in here. Who, of course, they were looking at the Grand Annual, I believe, for him, and I think he got balloted out. He missed the cut by a couple. With hindsight, with what the ground was doing at Cheltenham, I think that had been a blessing in disguise. Rouge Vif is massively well handicapped again. He's off 137. This is a horse, of course, nearly broke the track record at Cheltenham a few years ago. Was rated 164. I think placed in a Tingle Creek, didn't he, once upon a time? He's a horse of a lot of back class. He left Harry Whittington, went to Paul Nicholls, went to the sales. Harry Whittington loved him so much, bought him back for 40,000. He's back in the yard. He's an old stable favourite, and he is £25 below his peak. It wouldn't be a shock if he ran a big race, but again, 2.5 on soft. If it does get wet, we'll probably play against his. They're being undone by the weather, essentially, like a few horses have this week. But yeah, Mr. Fisher each way. If he's got any of his old spark after the wind up, I say he's too well. He's down a stone in the weights from where he was this time last year. He's too well handicapped to ignore.
Lovely, yeah, sums up nicely. And Stephen, over to you for your value angle.
Yeah, mine runs in the 205 at Kempton, and Ed's right about the weather. I mean, it's good to soft at the moment at Kempton, but looking out the window, it's very dark skies, and Kempton's sort of 5 minutes away, Sunbury. So, and the forecast is showers tomorrow, so it could get on the softer side of good to soft. I don't think Move It Like Mini, who is my value angle selection, wants really testing ground. He's got one run on soft ground. They took him out on heavy a couple of years ago, just looking through his record overall. But he has been running really well since going handicapping, and I basically think he's a 3-mile chaser in the making. He's ridden every time by Finn Lambert. He's been winning round Huntingdon. He idles in front. He's a tricky ride. He's on and off the bridle. His jumping's got a lot better. He did get whacked up £10 for winning, but he ran really well back there last time when finishing third. That was a really creditable run. Just tapped for a bit of pace and then rallying again after the last. I think Kempton 2-mile 5 will definitely suit him. It's not dissimilar to Huntingdon. Flat, right-handed, and the extra couple of furlongs here will really suit. 8-1, I think, is a very fair price. I'm not wild on the favourite Outlaw Peter, who wasn't impressive when landing a short price the other day. He looked beat. You know, he may have been idling in front. He made all the running, but back into handicaps here, this is a much, much harder race. And Outlaw Peter has got a bit of a vulnerable look now from this high up the weight. So I wasn't mad on him. Down the bottom, Move It Like Mini, 8-1. I think it's one of the better bets of the weekend.
And again, this is a question mark about the Twiston Davis yard, or are you happy with how they're going at the moment?
They're all right. I mean, he's never going to trouble the scorers at Cheltenham these days, unfortunately. He's 2 from 18 in the last 14 days, Twiston Davis. He used to be, back in the day, a real hot and cold trainer, a bit like Venetia. There'd be months where they wouldn't have a winner, and suddenly they'd have 6 or 7 in a week. They'd catch fire, and then they'd stay in form for a few months and go again. But these days, he's much more reliable. I mean, it is interesting with yards. This is a sort of time of year, as the ground changes in the next few weeks, you can see a complete transformation. My actual nap selection, which we're coming on to, is trained by a trainer who does really well in the spring and often misses out the winter altogether.
All right, well, then that leads us on nicely then to your nap. So might as well take it away with your nap, Stephen.
That was seamless, Joe, wasn't it? We're getting so much better at this these days. Tom George, no, he trains the nap. Storming Crossgales. In my head, he's a bit like Charlie Longston. I think all of his horses want good ground, generally speaking. Now, I know you're talking about scores of horses. Not all of them have got the same characteristics, but generally speaking, I think Tom George does particularly well in the spring. So we don't want any rain for Storming Crossgales. I think what they've done with him is since he won on his chasing debut back in November from Cap de Mathan, they've put him away waiting for the ground. He jumped absolutely superbly round Wincanton first look. He's quite a keen going sort. I think he enjoyed dominating, but he jumped so well given his inexperience, found plenty and won well. Now he's got a new mark to defy, and it's 4 months later, but I think that's deliberate. I think they've saved him for this Saturday race. He'll like the ground as long as it doesn't get too testing. I mean, I wouldn't be amazed if they pulled him out if the rain turned out to be heavier than forecast. But he's lightly raced. He's progressive. Talking about stable form with Tom George, he's only had 3 runners in the last 14 days. He's not bothered with Cheltenham particularly. and I think Storming Crossgales can improve past these rivals. He's around about 4-1. I'm not worried at all about Captain Mathan. I think he already holds him, and I think Captain Mathan's had a lot of hard races lately and might be past his best. The danger, Joe, could be Any News of Neil Mulholland, who might be running himself back into form. He was a lot better last time out, and as you can see from the IrishRacing.com graphic there, he's wearing cheek pieces for the first time, and he is quite a quirky sort. Sam Twiston-Davies, just the sort of jockey you might get a little bit more out of him, so he could be the danger.
Okay, fair enough. And moving on to Ed's nap of the weekend, please.
Yeah, I'm over to I'll say down to Fontwell and Alco Pop for Toby Laws would be my my best bet of the weekend in the 4:55. Been a bit frustrating in recent times, having a few spins over hurdles. Been running well. You can see from that string of threes, and then was back over fences last time out at Fontwell, and it was early doors, departed. I think it was the 6th or 7th flight before the race really got going in earnest. Look, this horse again, we've spoken about, it's a similar kind of theme of mine for this weekend. The last win of this individual came over fences off a BHA rating of 110. Well, we're back on the same mark here today. So this mark you wouldn't think is impossible. And the horse enjoys Fontwell. Has 2 wins on the CV at Fontwell and enjoys soft ground. In fact, a quote for Toby Laws is, this lad cannot have it soft enough. Well, we're soft with potential of another 7 mils of rain coming in. It could get quite deep down there at Fontwell. And that's essentially, he's a little bit of a one-trick pony, for want of a better phrase, Alco Pop. Loves the mud, loves galloping around 3 miles, and he enjoys Fontwell. For testament, he's won there twice. So Alco Pop for me. Cowling Quinn on board, claiming 5 as well. £5 claim that's been making a few people sit up and take notice in recent times. So yeah, obviously hoping there's no ill effects from that early blunder last time out. But with a clear round here of this type of market on this ground, I'd be disappointed if it wasn't going close.
And I think they are good selection, by the way, Ed. Good luck for you and your nap. But can you take us through, you mentioned off there as well, the bumper at Kempton you had your eye on.
Yeah, indeed. It's the 5 o'clock. I mean, there's a few people have probably cottoned onto this already. A few bookmakers as well by the looks of it. But it's the Junior National Hunt flat race. It's the bumper. It's been confined to 4-year-olds only. And I've got to be honest with you, I don't know if that's from just this year onwards. I think it may have been from last year. It started being 4-year-olds only. Whereas it used to be an all-open age bumper. So the dynamic of the race has changed, but point being, it's still the same bumper at the same time on the same day, at the same track. And Nicky Henderson won this a few years ago with a certain horse called Shishkin. Well, they've got Monty Cam in here, who is a half-brother, no less, to Altior. He costs €300,000. And you think after a long week at Cheltenham, celebrations of Constitution Hill, Henderson team might be off having an all expenses champagne do somewhere on a private island. No, they're hanging around in the rain for the £2,000 bumper at Kempton at 5 o'clock on a Saturday evening for Monticam. Say a son of Camelot, half brother to Altior, cost an absolute bomb, owned by Kevin Doyle. Fascinating on paper, if not anything else. I did actually look up. I think the horse is getting quotes already for next year's Supreme at 33-1. Made me chuckle. But the way the anti-post books work these days, if this of course comes out and wins 9 lengths hard held like Shishkin did in the bumper, it'll be half that without even having stepped foot over hurdles in public. So it does make me laugh. But look, nonetheless, just one to keep your eyes on. Monticam, probably with a view to the future. The most interesting horse running on the card at Kempton on Saturday.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight as well the result there from 2019. Shishkin winning that bumper as well. So yeah, hopefully there you've dug out a potential good one for next year. But yeah, just want to kind of wrap up the show just by summing up the tips. So Stephen, could you just sum up your selections for the weekend, please?
Yeah, I do. The nap is in the 1:30 at Kempton, Storming Crossgales. Hopefully the rain won't get in. He's a bold jumping front runner. I think Kempton will be ideal. And Tom George has waited for the spring, for the ground to dry out, for a really profitable campaign, hopefully. My value angle section is in the 205. Move It Like Mini, who has gone right up the weights, but I think he wants a stiffer test of stamina. And an extended 2 mile 5 round Kempton on decent-ish ground should be ideal. I don't think he wants testing ground either, so just keep an eye on that. But 8-1, if it stays good to soft, that'll be absolutely fine under Finn Lambert, who's a very promising claimer. And the long shot, Ed and I agree, the double curse, 225 Uttoxeter, wild about Oscar, very well handicapped, deep ground ideal, Uttoxeter ideal, Skelton replacing Woods, must run well back at this track.
Yeah, great stuff, Stephen. Good luck to you. And Ed, just remind us of yours as well, please.
Yeah, indeed. We're Alco Pop is my nap. Loves soft ground, loves Fontwell with a clear round. This horse is back on the same mark as when he was last in winners and closure, so handicap to go well. Similar kind of sentiment in a similar way with Mr. Fisher. 3 wins from 5 visits to Kempton, one of his favourite tracks. Had in a wind operation since disappointing last time out, and has plummeted down the ratings. Was a 162 horse at his peak, off 146 and a handicap here. Again, looks too well handicapped to ignore. And then, with Stephen, wild about Oscar, £10 lower than last, successful, unbeaten at Uttoxeter, and a case of the more the rain, the merrier. So, wild about Oscar, good claims there in the 225.
Perfect. Sums up very nicely. Well, best of luck to you both. And also, if you are going to be placing a bet, as ever, please do gamble safely. We'll be back next week for another betting show, so be sure to subscribe to the irishracing.com YouTube channel for more. And that wraps it up for today. So thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you again next week.